Now let's begin. The digital clock on my dashboard read 3:47 p.m. when I pulled into the driveway of our modest two-story house in suburban Portland. The bouquet of white lilies sat on the porch, wrapped in black ribbon, the kind you see at funerals. I grabbed the small card tucked between the stems. Sorry for your loss, Ingrid. I stood there, rain starting to mist around me, reading those 5 words 3 more times. My mother-in-law, Ingrid Barlow, hadn't spoken to me in 4 months. Not since I'd refused to let her take Jake for an entire summer to her place in Seattle. Not since I'd told her that her drinking problem meant supervised visits only. I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. Gregory. Her voice was cold, crisp. The voice of a woman who'd spent 30 years as a federal prosecutor before retiring. What loss, Ingrid? Silence stretched between us like a wire pulled taut. Ingrid, what the hell does this mean? The line went dead. I called back twice. Voicemail both times. That knot in my stomach, the one I'd carried since my wife Sarah died in that accident 18 months ago, tightened. My son Jake was supposed to be home by 4. I was a structural engineer who worked from home 3 days a week specifically to be there when he got off the bus. At 4:15, when the bus rumbled past our house without stopping, I called Clearwater Elementary. Mr. Piper, Principal Ellen Dyer's voice was cautious, professional. Jake was signed out at 2:30 this afternoon. By who? Let me check the log. It says here a family member. Ingrid Barlow. She had proper identification and said there was a family emergency. I was in my car before she finished the sentence. The drive to Ingrid's house took 35 minutes. 35 minutes of my mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. Ingrid lived in a modernist glass and steel mansion overlooking the Columbia River, bought with her late husband's Boeing pension and her own substantial savings. The gate was open. That should have been my first warning. I drove up the winding driveway, gravel crunching under my tires. The house was dark except for a single light in the kitchen. I pounded on the front door, then tried the handle. Unlocked. Ingrid. Jake. My voice echoed through the cavernous foyer. Nothing. I moved through the house, room by room. Living room, empty. Kitchen, spotless. Her office, the desk cleared except for a single envelope with my name written in her precise, legal handwriting. Inside was a note on heavy cardstock. You'll understand in 48 hours. That was it. No Jake. No Ingrid. Just those 6 words. I called the police. Officer Tracy Sparks arrived within 20 minutes, took my statement with skeptical eyes. Mr. Piper, your mother-in-law is his grandmother. Legally, she has visitation rights. Unless you have a restraining order. She sent me funeral flowers this morning. She won't answer her phone. My son is missing. Has she threatened you or your son before? I hesitated. The truth was complicated. Ingrid had always been cold to me, but she loved Jake. She'd fought me for custody after Sarah died, hired expensive lawyers, dragged me through court. But the judge had ruled in my favor. I was a fit parent, employed, stable. Ingrid's drinking problem and her obsessive behavior had worked against her. She tried to take custody of him after my wife died. I said finally. Officer Sparks wrote something in her notepad. I'll file a report. But honestly, this sounds like a grandparent taking her grandson for a visit. If she doesn't bring him back by tomorrow, call again. I spent that night in Ingrid's house, searching every room, every drawer. I found nothing except evidence of planning. Empty spaces where photo albums should have been, her passport missing from her desk drawer, her car gone. At 2 a.m., my best friend Wesley Camacho showed up with coffee and his laptop. Wesley was a cybersecurity analyst with a particular set of skills he'd learned in the Marine Corps before going private sector. Talk to me, he said, setting up at Ingrid's kitchen table. I told him everything. The flowers, the phone call, the note. Wesley's fingers flew across the keyboard. I'm checking her financial records, credit cards, any digital footprint. If she's running, she'll leave traces. She's not running. She wants me to wait 48 hours. What? That's what we need to figure out. By dawn, Wesley had found something. Greg, your mother-in-law withdrew $50,000 in cash 3 days ago. She's also been making calls to a number registered to a Bruce Villarreal. Know him? I shook my head. He's a private investigator. Retired cop. Works mostly insurance fraud cases now, but his record shows he's not too picky about his clients. The pieces weren't fitting together, but I could feel the shape of something larger forming in the shadows. I went home that morning to shower and change. My house felt wrong, violated somehow. I couldn't put my finger on it until I walked into the garage. My toolbox had been moved. The tarp covering my workbench was arranged differently. Someone had been in here. I checked the security camera footage. The system I'd installed after Sarah's death showed a figure in dark clothes entering my garage at 11 p.m. the previous night. They knew exactly where the cameras were, kept their face hidden. They were inside for exactly 12 minutes. Wesley came over to analyze the footage. Professional work. They knew what they were doing. What's in your garage that someone would want? Nothing. Just tools, some old furniture I'm refinishing, Sarah's things I couldn't throw away. We searched the garage together. It took an hour before Wesley found it. A small plastic bag hidden behind the water heater. Inside was a cell phone I'd never seen before and a woman's gold necklace. Don't touch it, Wesley said, his voice tight. Greg, this is a setup. What are you talking about? He pulled out his phone and did a reverse image search on the necklace. His face went pale. This necklace belongs to Monica Woods. She's been missing for 3 days. It's all over the news. I felt the floor drop out from under me. Monica Woods. I'd seen the headlines. Local teacher disappears, police investigating. And now evidence connecting her to me was planted in my garage. Ingrid's framing you, Wesley said. The 48 hours, she's giving whatever she's planned time to develop. When was Monica Woods last seen? 3 days ago, according to the news. Same day Ingrid withdrew that cash. Greg, when did Sarah die? What was the exact date? March 15th, 18 months ago. Wesley pulled up something on his phone. Monica Woods went missing on March 15th this year. Same date. That's not a coincidence. The countdown had begun, and I was starting to understand the shape of Ingrid's revenge. She'd spent 18 months planning this, nursing her hatred, building her case. She blamed me for Sarah's death, and now she was going to take everything from me. My son, my freedom, my life. I had 36 hours left before I understood exactly how deep her betrayal went. But I was done waiting. Ingrid Barlow had made one critical mistake. She thought I was the same man who'd stood numbly at his wife's funeral, too broken to fight back. She was wrong. I didn't sleep. Instead, Wesley and I spent the next 12 hours building our own case. He hacked into Ingrid's email. Illegal, yes, but I was already being framed for murder. We needed leverage. What we found was meticulous. Ingrid had been corresponding with Bruce Villarreal for 11 months. The emails were coded, careful, but the pattern emerged. Bruce had been conducting surveillance on me, documenting my routines, my weaknesses. But more disturbing were the emails about Sarah. The accident investigation was sloppy. Ingrid had written. Gregory walked away without a scratch. Sarah's brakes failed on a road he'd driven that morning. The police didn't even test his hands for brake fluid. My blood ran cold. She actually believed I'd killed Sarah. Bruce, I need you to understand, my daughter was murdered, another email read. Gregory is a structural engineer. He knows how to make things fail. He knew exactly when those brakes would give out. He wanted her life insurance, wanted to be the tragic widower, wanted full custody of Jake. I've spent 18 months watching him play the grieving husband, and I won't let him get away with it. This is insane, I whispered. Sarah's death was investigated. It was an accident. Old brake lines, wear and tear. Doesn't matter what's true, Wesley said. Matters what she believes. And she's convinced. Look at this next part. The emails outlined a plan. Frame me for Monica Woods' murder. Plant evidence. Create a pattern. Make it look like I was a serial killer who'd started with my own wife. While I was being investigated and arrested, Ingrid would file for emergency custody of Jake, presenting evidence of my dangerous mental state. But who's Monica Woods in all this? I asked. Why her? Wesley dug deeper. It took another hour, but he found it. Monica Woods had been Sarah's best friend in high school. They'd lost touch after college, but Monica had reached out after Sarah's death, sending condolences. She'd even mentioned in a Facebook post that she was planning to visit Portland to pay her respects. Ingrid killed her, I said, the words tasting like acid. She killed an innocent woman just to frame me. We need to go to the police, Wesley said. With what? Illegally obtained emails? Evidence planted in my garage that makes me look guilty? Wes, the second I go to them, I'm the prime suspect. Ingrid knows how the system works. She spent 3 decades prosecuting people. She's built an airtight case. Then what's your play? I stared at the emails, at the careful construction of Ingrid's revenge. She'd made it complex, layered, professional. But complexity created vulnerabilities. Every lie needed support. Every planted piece of evidence required logistics. We find Monica Wood's body, I said. And we prove Ingrid killed her. Wesley and I split up the work. He focused on tracking Bruce Villarreal's movements over the past week, using traffic cameras and credit card records. I went back through Ingrid's house with a forensic eye, looking for anything she might have missed. In her basement, I found it. A small bloodstain on the concrete floor, scrubbed but not completely removed. Luminol would light it up like a Christmas tree. I photographed it, documented everything. In the trash outside, which hadn't been collected yet, I found a Home Depot receipt for cleaning supplies, heavy-duty trash bags, and zip ties. Dated March 16th, the day after Monica disappeared. My phone buzzed. Wesley had sent me a location, a storage facility on the outskirts of Portland. Bruce Villarreal had rented a unit there 2 weeks ago. Don't do anything stupid, Wesley texted. I'm 20 minutes out. I didn't wait. I drove to the facility, bolt cutters in my trunk. The place was nearly deserted at 3 a.m. Unit 237 was in the back corner. The lock was commercial grade, but bolt cutters didn't care. Inside was a masterclass in frame-up artistry. They had clothes with my DNA on them, probably stolen from my laundry. They had receipts made to look like I'd purchased the same cleaning supplies found in Ingrid's trash. They had printed emails, manipulated to make it look like I'd been stalking Monica Woods. But they also had one thing they didn't plan on me finding. Monica Wood's purse, ID still inside, and a burner phone with text messages between Bruce and Ingrid about the disposal site. I photographed everything, then heard footsteps outside. Bruce Villarreal was a big man, ex-cop swagger still evident in his walk. He had a gun drawn before he fully entered the unit. Well, Gregory Piper. Breaking and entering. That'll look great at your trial. Where's Monica Wood's body, Bruce? He smiled, a cold slice of amusement. You tell me. You killed her, remember? That's what the evidence says. Ingrid's paying you to frame me. How much? $50,000. I'm getting paid to deliver justice. Your wife Sarah was my niece. Ingrid's my sister-in-law. You think I'd let you walk after what you did? The family connection clicked into place. This wasn't just Ingrid's revenge. Bruce believed it too. I love Sarah. I would never. Save it for your lawyer. Police are already looking for you, you know. Ingrid filed a report this morning that you threatened her, said you were unstable. Your fingerprints are going to be all over that evidence in your garage. And when they search your computer, they'll find all those searches about Monica Woods you didn't actually make. You hacked my computer. Wasn't hard. You're an engineer, not a tech guy. By the time the 48 hours are up, you'll be arrested for Monica's murder, investigated for Sarah's death, and Jake will be safe with his grandmother where he belongs. I heard sirens in the distance. Bruce had called them before coming in. One question, I said, backing toward the rear of the unit. If you believe I killed Sarah, why not just kill me? Why this elaborate frame? Bruce's smile faded. Because Ingrid wants you to suffer. She wants you to lose everything like she lost everything. Prison's worse than death, Piper. You'll rot in there knowing your son thinks his father is a murderer. I ran. The storage facility backed up to woods, and I knew these woods from my morning runs. Bruce fired once, the bullet sparking off metal, but I was already gone into the trees. Wesley picked me up 2 miles away on Highway 26, and we drove in silence to a motel outside the city. My 48 hours were almost up. In 6 hours, the police would come to my door with a warrant, evidence would be discovered, and my life would be over. Unless I proved them wrong first. The motel room smelled like cigarettes and desperation. Wesley had checked us in under a fake name, paying cash. He'd also brought his entire digital warfare arsenal, 3 laptops, various hard drives, and enough tech to run a small NSA operation. We have until 9 a.m., I said, checking my watch. It was 3:47 a.m. That's when the 48 hours end. That's when they'll make their move. I've got Bruce's phone records, Wesley said. He's been in contact with someone else. A Sonia Patton. She works as a paralegal at the prosecutor's office, probably one of Ingrid's old colleagues. What's her role? She's been feeding information about the Monica Woods case to Bruce and Ingrid. Inside access. They knew exactly what the police had, what they were looking for. Sonia helped them stay one step ahead. I pulled up the photos I'd taken from the storage unit. These text messages between Bruce and Ingrid mention a disposal site. They wouldn't have kept the body in Portland. Too risky. Where would they take her? Wesley's fingers flew across the keyboard. Bruce's truck has a GPS tracker for his PI work. Let me see if I can access it. He worked in silence for 10 minutes. Got it. On March 16th, he drove to Mount Hood National Forest. Stayed there for 4 hours, then drove back. I knew Mount Hood. I'd hiked there with Sarah before Jake was born. There were hundreds of remote areas, ravines, places where a body could disappear for years. Can you narrow it down? There's a logging road off Highway 26, about 40 miles in. He stopped there for most of those 4 hours. Wesley pulled up a satellite image. Heavy forest, steep terrain. If they buried her there, then we need to find her before the police come for me. Because that body is the only proof that I didn't kill her. Greg, even if we find her, how does that prove anything? They'll say you moved her, that you're tampering with evidence. He was right. Finding Monica's body wasn't enough. I needed to prove Ingrid and Bruce killed her. I needed to turn their own trap against them. What if we don't find the body? I said slowly. What if we make them lead us to it? Wesley looked at me. You want to use yourself as bait. They want me arrested. They want the police to find evidence. What if we give them what they want, but on our terms? I outlined the plan. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it was the only play that gave me a chance. Wesley listened, occasionally interjecting with technical details, refining the approach. By 6 a.m., we were ready. I drove back to my house. The street was quiet, morning fog rolling in from the river. I parked in my driveway, walked to my front door like a man without a care in the world. The surveillance cameras I'd installed would show me arriving home, acting normally. Inside, I went through my morning routine. Made coffee. Checked the news. The Monica Wood story was front page. Missing teacher case takes dark turn. The article mentioned that police had persons of interest they were looking to question. At 8:30 a.m., I called my son's school, putting on a concerned father act for the recording. This is Gregory Piper. I'm calling about my son Jake. His grandmother picked him up 2 days ago, and I haven't been able to reach her. I'm getting worried. Documentation. Creating my own timeline, my own evidence of concern. At 8:47 a.m., Detective Randy Cunningham's car pulled up outside my house. He was accompanied by 2 uniformed officers. I watched from the window as they approached, search warrant in hand. I opened the door before they knocked. Mr. Piper, Detective Cunningham said. He was 50-ish, weathered face, tired eyes that had seen too much. We have a warrant to search your property in connection with the disappearance of Monica Woods. Come in, I said calmly. I've been expecting you. That threw him. Just for a second, his professional mask slipped. They found the planted evidence exactly where Ingrid and Bruce had left it. The phone, the necklace, all of it. Cunningham's expression darkened with each discovery. Mr. Piper, I need you to come down to the station for questioning. Am I under arrest? Not yet, but we have some questions. Then I'll come voluntarily. But first, I need to tell you about my son. Jake Piper, age 8. He was taken from school 2 days ago by Ingrid Barlow, my mother-in-law. She left me a note saying I'd understand in 48 hours. Detective, those 48 hours are up. And now you're here with a warrant. That's not a coincidence. Cunningham's eyes narrowed. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm being framed. My mother-in-law believes I killed my wife. She spent 18 months planning this revenge. She kidnapped my son and murdered Monica Woods to frame me for it. That's a serious accusation. I have proof. Emails between Ingrid Barlow and Bruce Villarreal, a private investigator. Photographs of evidence staged in a storage unit. GPS records showing Bruce's truck at what I believe is Monica Wood's burial site. How did you obtain this evidence? Does it matter? A woman is dead. My son is missing. And in about 10 minutes, you were probably planning to arrest me based on evidence that was planted in my garage. Am I wrong? Cunningham didn't answer, which was answer enough. I handed him a USB drive, copies of everything Wesley and I had compiled. Before you arrest me, detective, look at this. Then ask yourself, does this look like a guilty man's behavior, or does it look like a father trying to save his son? They didn't arrest me. Not immediately. Cunningham took the USB drive, told me not to leave town, and left with his team. I watched them go, knowing this was the inflection point. Either he'd look at the evidence and see the truth, or he'd dismiss it as the desperate ploy of a guilty man. Wesley called at noon. How'd it go? We're not in custody yet. That's something. I've got more. Sonia Patton made a mistake. She sent an email from her work account to her personal account. Probably thought she was being clever, keeping documentation elsewhere. But I intercepted it. She's been helping Ingrid and Bruce for months. There's enough there to charge her with obstruction at minimum. Send it to me. We need every advantage. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Unknown number. Gregory. Ingrid's voice was ice. I hear the police paid you a visit. Where's my son? Safe. Away from you. By tonight, you'll be in custody. By next week, you'll be charged with murder. By next month, I'll have full custody of Jake. He'll never know his father except as a monster. You killed Monica Woods. An innocent woman. She was Sarah's friend. She knew things about your marriage, about how you treated Sarah. She would have testified if I needed her to. But she's more useful this way. The casual admission of murder chilled me. You're insane. I'm a mother who lost her daughter. You took Sarah from me. Now I'm taking everything from you. It's called justice, Gregory. It's called murder. And you're going to prison for it. She laughed. With what evidence? Everything points to you. My hands are clean. Bruce's hands are clean. You're the one with the body, the motive, the means. Even if you claim I framed you, who's going to believe it? A grief-stricken grandmother versus a husband with a dead wife and a missing woman? Please. I recorded this call, Ingrid. You just confessed. Silence. You're bluffing. Try me. I've been 3 steps ahead of you since the moment you sent those flowers. You thought I'd roll over, let you destroy me. But you forgot something about structural engineers. We understand stress points. We know exactly where to apply pressure to make things collapse. And your whole plan? It's about to come crashing down. I hung up. Wesley burst through the motel door 30 seconds later. Please tell me you actually recorded that. I held up my phone, the recording app still running. Every word. That's not admissible in court. You didn't inform her she was being recorded. Don't need it for court. Need it for leverage. My phone rang again. Detective Cunningham. Mr. Piper, we need to talk. In person. I looked at your evidence. And you might be telling the truth. But there's a problem. We can't find Ingrid Barlow or Bruce Betrayal. They've disappeared. The trap was closing, but not the way I'd planned. Ingrid was running. If she disappeared with Jake, I might never see my son again. Detective, I know where they're going. Mount Hood National Forest. Same place they buried Monica Woods. They're going to try to relocate the body before you find it. How do you know that? Because I made sure they knew we were getting close. I just told Ingrid I had evidence. She'll panic. She'll want to eliminate the one thing that can prove murder, Monica's body. And Bruce knows where it is. This is a lot of speculation, Mr. Piper. Then let me speculate in your car. Because we're wasting time, and my son is with a woman who's already killed once. There was a long pause. I'll pick you up in 10 minutes. But if you're lying to me, if this is some kind of game, it's not a game, detective. It's my son's life. Wesley came with us. Cunningham wasn't happy about it, but I insisted. We drove east toward Mount Hood, the forest growing thicker on either side of Highway 26. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo. Jake, sitting in what looked like a cabin. He looked scared but unharmed. And a message. Come alone or he disappears forever. Same logging road. You know where. I showed Cunningham. That's a trap, he said. Of course it's a trap. But she has my son. We call for backup. We do this properly. And she runs. You don't know Ingrid. She's a prosecutor. She knows every move you're going to make before you make it. We need to outthink her. What are you proposing? I go in alone, like she wants. You and your team surround the area. When she makes her play, you move in. Using you as bait. Using me as bait. I confirmed. But this time on my terms. We turned onto the logging road 40 minutes later. The forest pressed in on all sides, Douglas firs reaching toward a gray sky. Cunningham coordinated with his team over radio, positioning officers at key points around the area. Wesley handed me a wire. Audio and GPS tracker. We'll hear everything, know exactly where you are. I got out of the car alone and walked deeper into the woods. The logging road ended at a small clearing. In the center stood an old hunting cabin, weathered wood and broken windows. Bruce's truck was parked outside. The door opened before I reached it. Bruce stepped out, gun in hand. Smart move, coming alone. Where's my son? Inside. With his grandmother. Come on in, Piper. Time for the family reunion. I walked into the cabin, every sense on high alert. The interior was sparse, a table, a few chairs, and Jake sitting in the corner, his hands zip-tied in front of him. He looked up when he saw me, relief flooding his face. "Dad." Ingrid stood behind him, her hand on his shoulder. She looked different from the polished attorney I'd known. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes rumpled. She'd been living rough, probably in this cabin, for the past 48 hours. "Gregory, I didn't think you'd actually come. Let my son go." "Not yet. First, we're going to have a conversation about Sarah." "There's nothing to say about Sarah. She died in an accident." "Liar." Ingrid's mask cracked, showing the grief and rage beneath. "You killed her. I know you did. You tampered with her brakes, you planned it perfectly, and you've been walking free while my daughter is dead. I love Sarah. I would never hurt her. You wanted her insurance money. You wanted full custody of Jake. You wanted freedom from a marriage that was falling apart. Our marriage wasn't falling apart. She told me." Ingrid screamed. 3 weeks before she died, Sarah told me she was thinking about divorce. She said you'd grown distant, cold. She said something was wrong. And there it was. The truth underneath the conspiracy. Sarah had been unhappy. She'd confided in her mother. And when she died shortly after, Ingrid's grief had twisted into certainty that I was responsible. "Sarah was depressed," I said quietly. "After Jake was born, she struggled. Postpartum depression that never fully went away. She was seeing a therapist. She was on medication. I was trying to help her, but she wouldn't let me in. That's what was wrong with our marriage, Ingrid. Not me plotting to kill her. Me trying desperately to save her while she slowly slipped away." "You're lying." "I'm not. Check her medical records. Talk to her therapist, Dr. Ellen Dyer. Sarah was sick, and I was trying to help her heal. When she died, it destroyed me. But I had to keep going for Jake. I had to be strong for our son because that's what Sarah would have wanted." Ingrid's hand trembled. "You expect me to believe. I don't expect anything. But Jake deserves better than this. He deserves better than a father in prison for a crime he didn't commit and a grandmother who murdered an innocent woman." Bruce moved forward, gun raised. "Enough talking. Ingrid, we need to finish this." "Finish what?" I asked. "You're going to kill me here? In front of Jake? That's your plan." "Self-defense," Bruce said. "You threatened Ingrid, came here armed and dangerous. We had no choice." "The police are already here," I said calmly. "They've been listening to every word. They've surrounded the cabin. There's no escape." Ingrid's eyes widened. She reached for Jake, but he pulled away, scrambling toward me. I moved fast, putting myself between my son and the gun. "It's over, Ingrid." The door burst open. Detective Cunningham and 4 officers rushed in, weapons drawn. "Drop the gun. Now." Bruce hesitated, then slowly lowered the weapon. Ingrid collapsed into a chair, all the fight draining out of her. "Ingrid Barlow, Bruce Betrayal, you're under arrest for the kidnapping of Jake Piper and the murder of Monica Woods." I cut the zip ties from Jake's wrists and pulled him into my arms. He was shaking, crying, holding on to me like I might disappear. "It's okay," I whispered. "It's over. You're safe." But I was wrong. It wasn't over yet. They found Monica Wood's body exactly where Wesley's GPS tracking had indicated, buried in a shallow grave half a mile from the cabin. The forensic evidence was overwhelming. Ingrid's DNA under Monica's fingernails from the struggle. Bruce's fingerprints on the shovel used to bury her. Fibers from the cabin matching Monica's clothes. The case against them was airtight. But Ingrid had one final card to play. 3 days after their arrest, Detective Cunningham called me. "We need to talk about Sarah's accident." I felt my stomach drop. "What about it?" "Ingrid's lawyer is claiming that we should reopen the investigation. They're saying there's reasonable doubt about the circumstances of her death." "That's insane. You have Ingrid and Bruce on murder and kidnapping charges. This is just a deflection." "Maybe. But the thing is, we did find something odd in the original accident report. The mechanic who inspected Sarah's car noted that the brake line failure seemed unusually clean, almost like it had been cut partway through before the final brake. The mechanic noted that 18 months ago, and nobody followed up, it was ruled inconclusive. Could have been normal wear. Could have been tampering. But now, with Ingrid making these accusations, she's trying to create reasonable doubt. Make it seem like I actually did kill Sarah, which gives her a motive for her actions. Temporary insanity, defending her grandson from a murderer. That's what I'm thinking too. But we need to prove Sarah's death was definitely an accident, which means reopening the case. The next 2 weeks were a special kind of hell. While Ingrid and Bruce sat in jail, their lawyers built a defense around Ingrid's belief that I'd murdered Sarah. They painted her as a grieving mother driven to extremes to protect her grandson. They portrayed the murder of Monica Woods as a tragic mistake born from desperation and mental breakdown. I had to relive Sarah's death, talk to investigators, answer questions about our marriage, her mental state, every detail of that day. Jake stayed with Wesley and his wife during this time. I couldn't put him through more trauma. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Ellen Dyer, who'd been Sarah's therapist and was also the principal at Jake's school, came forward with Sarah's medical records. But more importantly, she had session notes detailing Sarah's deteriorating mental state in the weeks before her death. Patient reports intrusive thoughts about harming herself. One note read, discussed feelings of worthlessness, burden on family, increased medication dosage, patient resistant to husband's involvement in treatment. Another note, from 2 days before Sarah died, patient canceled appointment, left voicemail saying she needed to think, concerned about suicidal ideation, attempted callback, no answer. The medical examiner reviewed the case with this new context. The accident reconstruction expert looked at the data again, and slowly, a different picture emerged. Sarah had driven to that cliffside road knowing her brakes were failing. She'd noticed the problem days earlier, but hadn't gotten it fixed. She'd driven a route she rarely took, at a time when the road was empty. She'd been going too fast for conditions. It wasn't murder. It was suicide. And I'd spent 18 months lying to myself about it, pretending it was just an accident, because acknowledging the truth, that Sarah had chosen to leave us, was too painful. When Dr. Dyer shared this conclusion with me, I broke down. Wesley found me in my car outside the police station, sobbing like I hadn't let myself sob since the funeral. She didn't want to be saved, I said. I tried everything, and she didn't want it. It wasn't your fault, Greg. Ingrid was right. Sarah wanted out of the marriage. She wanted out of everything. And I couldn't stop her. That doesn't make you responsible. But it felt like responsibility. It felt like failure. The official ruling came a week later. Sarah Barlow Piper's death was reclassified as probable suicide. The brake line failure was self-inflicted negligence, not sabotage. There was no evidence of foul play. Ingrid's defense collapsed. Her entire justification for her actions, protecting Jake from his father's violence, was based on a delusion. The jury took 4 hours to convict her and Bruce of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and conspiracy. At sentencing, the judge gave Ingrid 30 years to life. Bruce got 25 to life. Their accomplice, Sonia Patton, got 10 years for obstruction and conspiracy. I sat in the courtroom with Jake next to me and watched Ingrid's face as the sentence was read. She looked old, broken, nothing like the formidable prosecutor who'd once struck fear into criminals across the state. Before they took her away, she looked at me. I just wanted to protect him. By killing an innocent woman? By framing me? By traumatizing your grandson? She had no answer. Jake squeezed my hand as they let her out in chains. Is it really over, Dad? Yeah, buddy. It's really over. 3 months later, Jake and I scattered Sarah's ashes at Crater Lake, her favorite place in Oregon. We'd never had a proper memorial. The investigation and trial had consumed everything. But now, with the truth finally laid bare, we could let her go. Did Mom love us? Jake asked, standing at the edge of the impossibly blue water. Yes, very much. But sometimes love isn't enough to fight what's inside your head. Your mom was sick in a way that medicine and therapy couldn't fix. She loved us, but her pain was stronger. Grandma Ingrid said you hurt Mom. I know, but it wasn't true. I tried to help your mom. I tried so hard. Sometimes people can't be saved, even by the people who love them most. We stood in silence, watching the ashes scatter across the lake, carried by the wind toward the horizon. Wesley had helped me get my life back together. The engineering firm I worked for had been supportive throughout the trial, and I'd even gotten a promotion, project lead on a new bridge design. The irony wasn't lost on me. I built structures that could withstand enormous stress, but I hadn't been able to build a marriage that could withstand my wife's depression. Jake started therapy to process the trauma of his kidnapping. Dr. Ellen Dyer recommended a specialist, someone who worked with children who'd experienced violence. He was doing better, but some nights I'd wake up to find him standing in my bedroom doorway, unable to sleep without knowing I was still there. As for me, I learned to live with the complicated truth of Sarah's death. She'd chosen to leave, and while that hurt, it also freed me from the guilt of thinking I could have done more. I'd done everything possible. Sometimes love, care, and effort aren't enough. I also learned that revenge was a poison that destroyed everyone it touched. Ingrid's need for vengeance had cost an innocent woman her life, had traumatized her grandson, and had landed her in prison for the rest of her life. She'd wanted justice for Sarah, but all she'd gotten was more loss. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter from Ingrid in prison. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. "Gregory, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that in my grief and rage, I became the very thing I'd spent my career fighting, a criminal. I told myself I was protecting Jake, but I was really just hurting everyone, including him. Sarah would be ashamed of me. I know that now. Please tell Jake that his grandmother loved him but lost her way. And please take care of him. Be the father I know you can be. Don't let my mistakes ruin his childhood. Ingrid." I read it twice, then filed it away. Maybe someday I'd show it to Jake. Maybe someday he'd want to understand the grandmother who'd loved him enough to destroy herself. But that was a decision for another day. For now, we were healing, building a life from the wreckage. And every morning when Jake got on the school bus, I reminded him that I loved him and I'd be there when he got home. Because unlike Sarah, unlike Ingrid, I was choosing to stay, choosing to fight, choosing to build something lasting from the broken pieces. That was my revenge against the darkness that had tried to consume us. Not more violence, not more pain. Just the stubborn insistence on living well, loving fiercely, and refusing to let tragedy write the final chapter. The flowers Ingrid had sent that day sat dried in a frame in my office. Sorry for your loss. I'd lost a lot. My wife, my trust, my innocence about how far grief could push people toward evil. But I'd gained something too, the knowledge that I could survive anything, that I could protect what mattered, that I was stronger than the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And that was enough. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.